Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Tuesday tip, where in this video we're going to be covering some troubleshooting and maintenance tips for your Planetary Clutch BMX Freecoaster. So these hubs have blown up in the past couple years. There are several different companies that are making them at this point, and while the issues and bumps in the road are rare with them, I have heard of some issues, and I do know how you would troubleshoot those and fix some of them, so I figured I would make a video about it for those of you who might have those issues. And I want to reiterate, these issues are rare, but things do come up no matter what the product is. So first of all, let's just go over a little bit on how you take this hub apart. Obviously, to take off your axle hardware, you're going to take off the axle nut, and most of your problems that are going to arise are going to be on the drive side, but there can be issues on the non-drive side, and most of these issues come from the hardware not being all the way tightened. So we got all of the axle hardware and the hub guard off of this thing, and the first example of troubleshooting that we're going to give here is that your hub doesn't always engage properly. Sometimes you go to pedal it forward and it just doesn't do what it's supposed to do. As you can see right here, sometimes I'm going to engage this hub and it just skips. Most of the time when this happens, it's because one of your cone spacers or your jam nuts are loose on the hub. And as you can see here, both of these are loose right now on this hub, and that is what's leading to it not engaging sometimes whenever we pedal it forward. These hubs have very intricate internals in them which don't work properly if everything isn't tight or the way that it's supposed to be. In order to make sure that these things are good, if you take your hub apart and it's not engaging properly and you notice that one of your jam nuts isn't tight, what you're going to want to do is grab your Allen wrench. You're going to use this slot in the end of the axle. You're going to find a wrench that is the proper size, and then you're literally just going to hold it tight and you're going to tighten that jam nut down. And you're going to want to make sure that you do this on both sides. Both sides are supposed to be tight, just as they should be on any other hub. So it's a little hard to do this and show the camera, but we're tightening it down here, making sure our jam nuts are tight. Now let's say this issue did not get solved by tightening up your jam nuts, or your jam nuts are already tight and you're just still having this issue. There is something on the inside here that we'll show you in just a second that could be the culprit of your problem. So we'll just take the driver out here to show you what could be causing this problem. As you can see, the clutch assembly is on the inside here, and what could be causing your hub to not engage properly is a faulty O-ring on the inside of this clutch assembly. We've seen the clutch assembly taken apart in previous videos. The O-ring is in there, and I have videos replacing this O-ring, which you're seeing on the screen right now. This can definitely cause that problem, and it is a very, very easy fix. So what I'm going to reiterate several times throughout this video is that if you are having an issue like this, please get in contact with either the people at Freenite directly or the company that makes your hub, because more than likely it's a simple solution of swapping out a small O-ring or adding a little bit of dry lube or something of that nature that's going to fix your problem. Don't just chalk it up as a loss or as that this thing is a piece of junk, because more than likely it's not. So those are two troubleshooting solutions to the problem of your hub not engaging properly. Next up is one that I've heard a couple times, and that is that your hub is making a high-pitched squeaking noise whenever the wheel is moving forward. Basically what this means is that there's not enough of the dry lubricant on the inside of the clutch assembly on your hub, and basically all you're going to need to do here is take some Tri-Flow or another dry lubricant or WD-40 and apply it directly to where the plastic clutch piece meets this top hat washer, which is metal. So where the plastic meets the metal, and even maybe a dab on the back side where it goes in right here. As you can see, it appears a little bit wet. That's because there's a little bit of Tri-Flow in there. That is where you're going to want to apply that Tri-Flow, WD-40, or dry lube. And then you just want to use the hub. You just want to ride it, and it'll work itself in there, and it should solve the problem. If not, disassemble your clutch and put some dry lubricant on the inside of the top hat washer where the O-ring comes in contact with it. that is more than likely going to solve your problem there. And this is one that has been very, very rare, but it has come up. And I don't want people to think that because I'm making this video that there's tons of issues out there with these hubs. There's absolutely not. It's just that I have heard things, and I would like to have this video to send to the people who do come in contact with me about the things that they encounter, because I've made so many videos about these things and I'm pretty much associated with them at this point that I just get all of people's questions when they run into problems. So if you're experiencing that high-pitched noise inside your hub, that should definitely help you with that. And I also just remembered another thing that people could be experiencing if their hub is skipping or not engaging properly, and that has to do with maintenance tips for this hub. So in all honesty, the main two things that I've heard for this hub are the ones that I've went over already, but anything else that I've heard that's escaping me right now has been most of the time solved by just making sure that the jam nuts are tight. I've heard people having issues and I ask, well, are your jam nuts tight? Have you checked that? Then they come back usually and say, I didn't check that. I tightened them and the problem is solved. But if your hub is not engaging properly still after doing the things that I've suggested here, you may want to check on the grease situation inside your hub. For some reason in BMX, a lot of people think that the inside of cassette hubs need to be like greased to a crazy level. It's simply not true for most hubs. There are certainly some that call for it, but with the Planetary clutch hubs, as well as hubs like the profiles, you're supposed to actually run them dry for the most part, without any kind of grease in there. If we look closely at the inside of this hub on the ratcheting ring, you can see that there's some sort of residue in there on the ratcheting ring. And we take a closer look at the driver, you can see that there's residue on the driver as well. This is grease. And the way that this hub comes stock from the factory is with a dab of grease on each of these paws, and that is it. That's all you need inside this hub. So if you added grease to your hub and it's not engaging properly, that is probably why. The intricacies of the inside of this clutch system can get gummed up by adding grease in there, and it can make them not work properly. So if you have done that, I would advise taking all of this out and completely cleaning all of it of grease. Take it all out, and then when you put it back together, there's one other thing that we're going to do in addition to putting one dab of grease onto each of the outside of these paws. And when I say a dab, I mean half the size of a pea. That size, very, very small. So another thing that you would want to do if you were going to completely take this apart and dry all of the grease out of it, it would be that you would take this top hat washer as part of your clutch assembly and you would add dry lubricant to the surface of it where it comes in contact with the O-ring on the outside. And I'm showing B-roll right now showing exactly what I'm talking about. That is the only other type of lubrication that is supposed to be in these hubs. That dry lube on the inside there, like we explained with the squeaking noise, is what prevents that squeaking noise and allows the hub to do its thing. Any more than that, and there's a chance that your hub is not going to work properly at all, and that is not how it is designed to be used. Less than that, and you're probably going to be just fine, but you could run into those squeaking issues that we talked about previously, which I already told you how to solve. When I first got the original Night Planetary Freecoaster, it had no grease on the inside. I don't even think that it had any of the dry lubricant on the inside of that top hat washer. I ran it dry for the entire time that I rode it, and I had no problems whatsoever. The hub clicked, the hub worked the way it was supposed to, and while it did skip on me sometimes, the reason that it did that was because it hadn't been improved to the point that these internals have been yet. O-rings have been added on the insides of these things as well as modified to improve them, and with that these hubs engage much better now, much quicker, and usually they're even louder. If you have any issues, don't give up on it. Don't go around telling people that it's a piece of junk, because chances are you're one of few who's having these rare issues, and chances are even greater that it's a very easy fix. Don't use this as an excuse to not buy one of these hubs, because every single product in all of BMX has issues sometimes. There's never been a product in BMX that just did not have a single issue ever. You may not have had an issue with it, but I guarantee your favorite part ever that you've never had a problem with, somebody else in the world has, and that's something that we need to understand, and the companies themselves understand that as well, in that if you reach out to them in a polite manner, most of the time they're going to work with you and try and help you because they don't want you to have a faulty product. They aren't in this to sell you a faulty product. They're in this to sell the best stuff that they can that works the way that it's supposed to. So all of that being said, those are my maintenance tips for the Planetary Clutch BMX Freecoasters. I hope that it helped you. I hope that you learned something. And if you did, and you're new here or you haven't yet, consider hitting the subscribe button down below so we can see you tomorrow for another one. I want to thank you guys all for being here and watching, and we'll see you then. Goodbye.